voice lag तो नहीं कर रही, right? Am I audible?
Am I audible? Yes. Am I audible?
Okay, can I start? Good evening, everyone. तो कैसे हैं आप सब लोग? I wish everyone is hale and hearty. CodeSetGo is here with another session on data science placement preparation. हम सबको पता है placement season बस आने वाले हैं. So in order to ace our placement, we must prepare for it. Today, our guest speaker will be sharing his insights about data science. Our today's speaker is Mr. NITIN Mukesh. He has completed his master's in applied statistics from IIT Bombay and is working as senior AI/ML engineer at Here Technologies. He has guided over 1,000 students through his workshops and study material in the past year. He is also the author of ebook titled Data Science Placement Preparation Guide, which has been used by more than 5,000 students to get a job in data science in past 1 year. इसका link आपको description box में मिल जाएगा. So if you want that ebook, you can refer to the description box. Also, during the sessions, there will be questions asked by our speaker, and you have to provide the correct answers. And the winners will get exciting swags from our sponsor, Coding Minutes. Stay tuned for the questions during the webinar, and you can type in your answers in the chat box. It's time for us to welcome our speaker. Sir, you can take over.
Okay, thanks, Imansi. I think my voice is clear, right?
Yes, sir, pretty much clear.
Okay, thank you. So, guys, welcome to this session. And through this session, I'm going to guide you about the data science interview preparation strategy. So, actually, data science interview preparation pathway is actually not too much structured. So, like people are not getting a clear pathway, like what to study, how to study, from where to study, what type of questions are, what is expected from a candidate, and a lot of things are there. That is why it is important to structure these things well, so that the students who are actually preparing for data science interview can get a idea about the complete idea about how these things are working and what is actually required to get a job in the data science industry. So means your confusion is going to get clear right after this session, because I have structured everything, planned everything, and through my ebook also you can get whatever I'm discussing here in the ebook, and obviously you can also get some more interview related questions in the ebook also. But yeah, the things I'm going to discuss here is actually going to give you a very well structured idea about how to get into the data science industry. So I hope you all are ready to uh, understand these things. So if I talk about a data science role, so data science role is not actually only related about the data science. So there are a lot of roles that actually come in the data science industry. So things like AIML engineer, AIML researcher, big data analysis, risk analyst, data engineer, statistician, financial analyst, business analyst, or data analyst. So there are a lot of different types of roles, and there are many more roles also, like deep learning engineer or AI engineer. So there are different types of roles that actually been coming up in the data science industry. So it's not about a specific data scientist. Obviously these all things are related to the same data science thing. And whatever I'm going to discuss with you, it is actually going to give you a very good insight about and actually how to prepare for all these roles. So when you are in college, it's not like you can specifically target a role. So data science may, you have to very specific about key, you can't be very specific about कि what are the types of role that you want to study in. Sometimes अगर company AI ML engineer के लिए आ रही है, तो you have to go for that. If a company is coming for data analyst, maybe you will sit for that also. If some company is coming for business analyst, you will also sit for that. Or risk analyst, many big banks like JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, and IDFC, ICIC, all the banks actually come for the risk analyst profile. So these things are actually too common in the data science industry. And obviously lot of time companies also can also come for the data engineer role also. So these things I'm going to discuss ki the same exact path will help you to clear all this interview at once. It's not like ki I'm going to give you different section for research or big data analyst. It's the same thing. Obviously you can see either sit for any roles out of these, and you're going to get the same thing asked in any of these roles. So I think you all are excited, like you, what are the things that I'm going to discuss so that you can target all these roles. Obviously these are all related to the data science, so that is why it's important. So if I talk about the journey to data science, so obviously I hope if you have not seen a campus interview process, so actually campus interview process start with a resume filtering. So whenever a job comes in your campus, you apply for the job. A lot of students apply for the jobs, and what the companies does, company actually sort out some resume. Maybe let's say 1,000 student apply, they will sort out the resume of 50 student, and it's depend on the company, and then they will invite it for aptitude and coding test. So those the student who cleared aptitude and coding test, let's say 10 student, they will invite it for technical round, and on the basis of the student who actually clear the technical round, they will invite it for the HR round. So that is why it is important to know these things, key how this process is working out. So this is the whole process that you can understand, and I'm going to discuss obviously all this process in very detail about especially related to the data science. So the thing that you have to know is that obviously this is the whole process that is related to the data science interview. And obviously when you clear all these rounds, obviously at the end you are going to have a job. So that is why it is important to pay attention to each of these steps, because each of these steps will help you gain more insight about how to clear these rounds, how to work on these rounds during the interview process. So if I talk about the first step, which is resume filtering, so resume filtering is important because let's say you are having a very good technical skills or technical project and everything, whatever you want, but you don't have a good resume, your profile is not going to get shortlisted. That is why it is important to be very clear about the things, that is how you have to make the resume. So obviously if I start to take a session on the resume only, it is going to take a more than 1 and 2 hours. But yeah, the thing is that you have to very clear about how to make a resume, make a very outstanding good, means a very structured resume, so that key your technical skills, your project, whatever you have done, your internships actually are visible clearly in the resume. And like a lot of times I see ki most of the people have very good technical skill, take good technical projects also, but they don't pay serious attention to the resume round, and they just don't make good resume, and that's why they don't get shortlisted by a lot of companies. So a resume is good, but yeah, this resume filtering is the most important. But yeah, this thing that you have to figure out yourself. Obviously I can share the my ebook link with the team. They will share in the uh, description box, that will help you make a how to make a good resume by yourself. Okay, so I understand that ki most of the college actually organize a resume filtering round and resume making round, and they actually help the student to make a good resume through the placement team. So if you have a good resume, that's not the all. But now the next process, like what is the test, what are they actually asked in the test, how the things are asked in the technical interview or HR interview. So that we also need to pay attention to. So if I talk about the test in a data science interview, there are actually two type of tests. One is called aptitude test and second is called coding test. So both type of tests are common. So mostly company go for aptitude test, like all the banking companies and all the companies go for the aptitude test. But yeah, coding test is also common. So it's not like you can skip the coding test. It's not like that. You have to be prepared for the coding test also. So I'm going to give a brief idea about how the aptitude tests are conducted and what are the topics that I actually mentioned. So, if I talk about the aptitude test, so most of you may have a good aptitude skills. That is very good. And if you don't, these are the things sections that is actually common in the aptitude round. So, it's called quantitative aptitude, logical reasoning, and verbal ability. So, quantitative aptitude, topics like these are very common, and obviously you can opt any aptitude book, or you can go for online resources to learn about these things. And the thing is that whenever you are solving the aptitude, you have to very clear about the time constant, because I know that these are the very basic chapters actually related to the, and everyone actually have read these chapters in the school or college. But thing is that so whoever solves the more number of questions in the short number of time, let's say 1 hour is time is there, so whoever score most, some students are going to get shortlisted from that particular thing. So that is why it is important to know these things, obviously, like how these particular thing are there. Next thing is logical reasoning. So in logical reasoning, topics like series completion, seating arrangement, these types of questions will be there. And the third is called verbal, or you can say that is something related to the language, like sometimes English type of things can also be there. But yeah, these two, quantitative aptitude and logical reasoning, is important. And the main thing is that you have to be very practical about these things, because obviously you can solve any number of questions, any questions, but yeah, you have to very cautious about the time. So I'm going to give you some tips about how you can optimize your aptitude ability. So first of all, let me discuss some common mistakes. So generally people actually don't prepare aptitude at all. Means the student think that ki, maybe they know is all these topics from the school time, so what is the need to prepare? So the things that you need to keep in mind is that the preparations is for you because you want to excel among the students. Like there are a lot of students that are working giving the placement test, so you have to excel among all those students, and that is why it is important. So let's say 100 students are applying, it will be there, like if 20 students are get selected, then those highest scoring 20 students will get selected. That is why it is important to pay some attention to the aptitude also, especially obviously this is what called a placement preparation. So this thing you have to target, you have to prepare aptitude well. Second thing is try to solve all questions at once. So whenever a student try to prepare aptitude, maybe from any book, they actually try to solve all the questions from a particular chapter. So it should not be that, like if you're preparing for any chapter, just try to read the basic formula, basic number of questions that can be, you can solve using those formula. And obviously you can move to the next chapter, and you can keep doing to all the chapters, and then you can come back and revise the questions from these chapters. So just don't try to solve 100 to 200 questions at once. Just try to read more and more topics, and then actually start practicing for the questions. Some students actually leave the preparations in midway. This means that a lot of students actually don't, when they get rejected from one or two companies, they stop preparing at all. So this should not be there. You have to be very we have to prepare after it also. Means the rejections may come in the process, but you have to keep preparing anyhow. So it's not like that key, if you're preparing for all those things, you are going to get selected in the first company. So that is like something that in placement process we have to deal with. It's not like you are going to get shortlisted in the first company or second company. It's not going to happen. If it's there, then think that you are lucky, or things are working well for you. But yeah, you have to prepare and keep preparing well after the rejections also. And obviously you have to increase your speed also. It's not like if you know all the concept, and if you're not able to solve the questions, large number of questions in a short number of time, then I think things are not going to get work out for you. So you have to make speed also. So to solve the aptitude effectively, obviously there are few things that you can adopt. First thing is called 10 to 4 rule. So this rule I want to discuss. So it means that key, for any chapter that you are solving, each day try to solve at least two chapter, and from those two chapters solve at least 10 questions. So like maybe you are solving any chapter, just try to solve 10 questions from that particular chapter while reading the theory, and just do same with the second chapter also. Means daily try to read two chapters by solving 10 questions, and solve four questions from previous two chapters. So like let's say today you have read chapter 1 2, tomorrow you are going to read chapter 3 and 4. So if you are solving 3 and 4, then just go and solve four questions from the chapter 1 and 2, any random number of questions. So this will help you keep things in loop also. Like whenever you are preparing for the interview, so it's important you have to be very means you have to be very what you can say, keep the things in loop also. It's not like you are trying to read something and getting forgetted something after reading the next particular thing. So just try to read all the chapters and then start practicing, make formula notes. You can keep the checklist of topics. So what are the topics you need to prepare, you can keep a checklist. And obviously you can discuss among your friends also. So if any topics you don't know, you can obviously you can discuss among your friends. Maybe it's sometimes happens that a lot of persons, with a lot of persons, some topics are strong than some other persons. So it's important you just need to discuss these things among your friends also, and that is why how things are going to get well for you also. So these things you have to keep in your mind while preparing for the aptitude. And to increase the speed of your aptitude solving, you can do three four types of things. Like you can practice some more questions, try to solve in front of the screen. So like if the test coding test is online, you can just open your laptop, open some aptitude or coding test, and you can start solving the things online also. You can revise your formulas daily. It's not like you are going to get remember everything. So just try to revise whatever the formula in the aptitude are there in the daily. And one thing that I will just try to suggest is that try to use this website. So this website actually helps you increase your mental calculation speed. So when you will go to this website, actually on this site you will get some number of questions. Let's say for 1 minute time you will get 60 means you will get some questions for 60 seconds. So whenever you solve the questions, next questions will appear. So for 60 seconds you can watch out how many calculation you have done. So these things, if you just go and practice these things over time, you can see that your calculation speed has become fast, and now you can solve more calculations in a very short amount of time. So this thing you can try out. And the next thing is, obviously you can remember some short trick. So short trick means that there are a lot of things that is actually associated with the these things. So short tricks means maybe for solving some particular type of questions, some short formula there that you can apply. So I know these are a lot of things, but don't worry. Just if you just use 10 to 4 rule, you can obviously solve a lot of chapters in a very short amount of time. So I think 40 to 45 chapters you can solve in just 20 days. And just keep the things in revision while preparing for other data science topics. So it's not like you have to keep reading these things again, again, and again. So just it's not like that. So some other things from where you can also solve some questions are there, you can see on the screen. So apart from the book that I suggested, you can obviously go for some other book like the Aptitude by Arun Sharma. It's actually cat level book, or this online site that you can go and you can obviously study about the aptitude also. So these things are also going to help you a lot while preparing for the aptitude. So obviously aptitude is main because if you're not going to clear the test, then how you are going to get shortlisted for the interview and the HR interview. That is why these things are important, and I'm paying a lot of attention on the aptitude and the coding test also. So after aptitude, you are means the things that need to see is about the coding test. So in data science, there are actually two types of coding tests. Some is called some first is called ML coding test, which is machine learning coding test, or you can say data science coding test. And second thing is called data structure and algorithm coding test. So it means that key some data structure algorithm questions will be there. So a lot of companies in our time, like Flipkart and some other company also, actually they actually start for data science role, they took DSA coding test. But a lot of companies like Microsoft and some different companies, they actually take ML coding test. So I'm going to discuss like how this test you can actually prepare for, and how we can also prepare for the DSA and coding test also. So ML coding test means there will be some algorithm or some data science concept that will be actually asked to you to implement. So maybe some data set is given and you have to implement some ML algorithm, or maybe some data set is given, you have to apply some data science concept to evaluate something, okay, and calculate a result. So these types of things will be there, and the way you need to prepare for these things is that whatever the ML algorithms you read. So let's say you are reading about the regression or classification or clustering, just try to read their implementation in the uh, either Python or R language. So I know Python is the most important language, for the most popular language for the data science concept. But yeah, you can either choose Python or you can also choose R, and that is okay. That is fine. Okay. So whatever the algorithms you are studying, obviously these things are also going to help you in the interview also. So that is why it is important you just know the implementation, such that you can also answer these questions in the interview, the the test also. So I have written some questions for you, just like just it's a sample of questions. So these questions has been actually asked when I was in the campus interview. So I listed these two questions so that it will help you understand what type of questions are actually asked in the ML coding test. So like they may ask you to write a Python code in Python to implement the multiple linear regression. So a data set will be given to you, and you have to implement this MLR regression, and you have to find the R square, adjusted R square. So if you are from the data science background, obviously you know these terms, understand these terms. Or maybe someone asks you to do the clustering, implement the clustering algorithm, and they have given us some data set. So these type of questions can that you have to do, and obviously on the basis of the results that the people submit, they will evaluate the student, and they will shortlist the student based on these things. So apart from the ML coding test, something is called data structure algorithm coding test. So DSA is the main part of SD role. So if you know about the SD software development, this is the main part of SD. But yeah, you cannot skip the coding in the data science. So these topics that I've listed. These are oftenly asked in the or the DSA test. But yeah, the thing is that whenever you are going for the interview, these things will also be asked in the interview round also. So it is important to prepare these things well, because it will help you in the test also, and it will help you in the interview also. So it is a lot of times people are asked questions based on the recursion, dynamic programming, searching, sorting, and these things are actually help you a lot to clear the data science round test also, and the interview also. And obviously like some topics, some popular places from where you can practice these things. So obviously you can use HackerRank to practice this algorithmic section. Easy problems you can solve also. If you're not aware about the programming a lot, you can obviously solve the easy problem. You can also use geeks for the study purpose, and you can also use this Code Basic. So Code Basic is a YouTube channel that you can actually use to learn some data, this data structure algorithm concept in Python. So obviously whatever resource you use, if it's this topic is being taught in your college, that is fine, you can just use that also, no problem. But if you're not being taught, you can also either use Geeks for Geeks or Code Basic to read these topics. And there are many more other YouTube channel also that you can search for the data structure algorithm. Obviously you can use HackerRank for the practice thing, that will actually help you to practice all those things. So like I just wanted to point out the data hackering interface, because if you are beginners, you maybe not be familiar with the hackering interface. So there are a lot of section in the hackering. You can obviously, if you want to practice Python, you can go to practice Python. If you want to practice algorithm, you can go and practice algorithm, go and practice data structure. So these things I will advise you to practice, at least start practicing basic to medium questions. That will actually help you a lot. So if you just click on any particular section, you will see something like that, which is actually giving you the so like obviously if you select the basic skill here, it will show you all the basic questions that you can solve. And you can also solve questions from these topics like array, linked list, trees, stack, queue, heap. So these things you can solve. And obviously you can also solve these questions basis on the basis of the topics that you want to solve. Just select the topic, solve the question. So there are a lot of apart from the hackering, obviously there is lead code. But lead code won't be, I think, more important for you, because lead code contains some high level questions also. But yeah, HackerRank is good for if you are from data science interview. Obviously you can start solving only basic questions, then you can go to the intermediate level questions. That will be enough for you. So if you are just if not started programming, so there are here a few tips that you can use to enhance your programming experience. So the first thing is that choose a language. So whenever you are starting a programming, especially in data science, people start switching between Python, R, and some different languages. Okay, so I will suggest go with the Python. Just don't worry about any other language. Go with the Python, because in the industry also a lot of companies are using Python only. So go with the Python and just stick with that. Just to try to learn the lot of concept with the Python. Try to learn competitive programming. Do competitive programming using Python. So just don't keep switching between a lot of languages. Second thing is that whenever you're practicing any ML algorithms, just try to learn their implementation also. So either R or Python. So obviously here you can also use Python. And if you're beginner in the programming world, just try to solve 2-3 questions. So like if you're going to the HackerRank, it's not like we're going to solve all the questions in the one day. So just try to solve 1 to 2 questions, or maybe 2 to 3 questions daily. And eventually with time, you can say that your programming skills will definitely going to increase. That is why it is important to do these things. And I know that a lot of people from the non-tech background also want to get into the data science, data analytics. That is totally fine. But thing is that you have to be good in coding, because coding is something that will actually help you get a good job in data science. Obviously there are a lot of jobs in data science also that they don't ask your coding knowledge. But yeah, I told you, if you want to get a good job in data science, you have to be very good in coding. Obviously not something like the people coding level that is actually asking the software development interview, but yeah, you have to be at least good. So with the time you have to identify your weak topics and target them. It's not like it's not like all the topics are going to be strong. So when I was preparing my recursion and DP was very weak, so I used to prepare recursion and timing programming using lead code. So obviously you have to identify like on which topics, which topic is your weak point, weak topics, and then you have to target those topics individually and work on those topics so that you can figure out those things well. Next thing is that if you're starting new, so let's say you are starting new, you're starting just right now, then you have to give some time. It's not like you're going to get pro in the coding in just 1 day or 1 week or 1 month. With the time you can start, and you can obviously do that. So I think 6 to 8 months is enough for to prepare for the placement or do all the things that I'm discussing here. So coding is just like mathematics. Obviously the more you solve, the more you are going to get better at it. It's not like one day you solve, and if for 1 and 2 months you don't solve, you are going to get good at coding. So just try to solve 2 3 questions daily, and eventually these things are going to work in the favor of you. So I know that I discussed two steps till here. The first is resume round, and second is test. But the thing is that once you clear test, you are going to get into the technical round. So technical round, this is the oral interview. So maybe face to face interview or oral interview. A lot of time companies are taking online interview. So this interview will be face to face, and like depending upon the company, the technical round may vary from 1 to 4 round. So some company may take 1 round, some company may take 2 round, 3 round, some company may take 4 round also. That is not impossible. So that's depend upon the company to company, but typically 1 to 2 round technical interview is always going to be there. So this a technical round preparations is going to give you an idea about what are the exact topics that you need to study for the technical round. So I know that most of the topics is going to be similar with the test also, but yeah, these things will be more structured because I'm going to give you the exact topics that you need to study. So for technical round, the first thing is that if you are going to sit in the technical round, the the most important thing is that try to prepare a resume. So whatever the questions the interview is going to ask you, it is going to relate it from your resume only. So let's say you have done some ML project or some data science project or some internship related to data science or data analytics. So whatever the things that you have done, they are going to ask you a questions on the basis of that. It's not like you have written something else and they're going to ask you something else. So whatever the things that you have written, questions will be framed starting from that point only. So it's good to make separate notes of project and internship. So whatever the project internship you've written, just make a separate notes of all those things. Try to read all the details, like what did you do, or how do you decided to do those things, what you were thinking at that time, what are difficulty you faced, and obviously relate to the concept, like maybe you use some xyz concept, then also like a y xyz concept. And obviously if let's say you used any regression algorithm or any ML algorithms, just try to read the working of data algorithm also. So like you have to know about everything that you have written in the project. But yeah, that is limited to whatever you have done. It's not like let's say you have not used some xyz variation of that particular algorithm that you need to know that particular thing. It's not required. But whatever you have done, you have studied, you need to do those things. Okay, you need to study those things well. So let me just tell you the second thing is that you have to prepare your project and internship very well. So a lot of questions will be framed starting from the concept that you use in project and internship. So that is why it is important for you to be very cautious about the project and internship. And a lot of time, like students write do some project, okay, and they don't prepare the projects, just they write in the resume gets shortlisted, maybe they clear the test also, okay, and when they sit for the interview round, they actually get rejected, because if you've not prepared the project, your interview is not going to get successful. So whatever the project internship you have written, the whatever the point you've written, you have to prepare those points very well. Second thing is that read in the detail the highlighted keywords. So like sometimes in the resume we highlight some keywords, so you have to read those highlighted keywords very well. Means whatever the concept related to those highlighted keywords are there, you have to understand those things very well. Third thing is that you have to be ready with the examples. So whatever the concept you're explaining, let's say you're explaining maybe the uh, any ML algorithms, maybe you are explaining decision tree, or maybe you are explaining some other data science concept or hypothesis testing. You have to explain those things with examples. So with the examples, things become more clear. And obviously, the end note is prepare these things, project internship in detail, because these things, a lot of questions will be based on these particular things only. So this is why it is important. It's important to prepare resume. And preparing a resume means that, let's say I have taken a sample of a resume. So this is the resume of one of my friend. So I'm going to point out how the questions are actually asked in this particular thing. Okay, so at first you can see that he has done some project in the linear regression, and then he has done some finance project, then some other data science and time series project. Okay, so let's see how the questions will be based on this particular thing. So at first he have written that he has done some regression based analysis. Obviously, regression is a huge topic in the data science itself. So uh, first questions can be there. He has written that he had checked linear regression assumptions. The first questions can be there. What do you mean by linear regression model assumptions? So there are actually 4 to 5 assumptions from the linear regression model that are actually like that is in the regression analysis concept. So that will be asked. Okay, now he has fitted ridge regression. What is ridge regression? Then principal component. What is principal component analysis? And a lot of different questions are going to be there in the resume itself. And if you have written some keywords, the interviewer will actually frame the questions around those keywords. So let's say if you have just written adjusted R square and you have bold that keyword. Bold means you have just dark the keyword. Then it the means this keyword will eventually going to get attract the interviewer, and the interviewer is going to ask the same questions like what is adjusted R square, what is the difference between R square and adjusted R square. So these things are there, and obviously you cannot skip these things. So whatever you have written in the resume, just try to prepare those projects very well. If you don't know about any project, just don't keep it in the resume. It will just make a bad impression of you. So whatever you know, just keep those things. If you don't know, if you can't prepare those things in the future, just don't keep those particular things. So just I wanted to give examples see how the questions can be framed on the basis of uh, the resume that you have. So that is the thing there. Okay, so now let us move about the topics, like what are the topics that's really asked in the technical or interview. So if it's a data science, then obviously you cannot skip the statistics, a little bit of mathematics and coding. Okay, so I these are the broadly speaking, these are the topics that is actually asked. So basic statistics is there, the statistical distribution, hypothesis testing, ML algorithms, data science concept, SQL or data structure, or programming concept, puzzles and guesstimate. Okay, so these two things are also important. If I want to figure out, like I in the beginning I told you there are some roles related to the data science, like ML engineer or data engineer, something like that. So if obviously these things are based on these particular skills only. So if you just, let's say, if you just combine the skills of like SQL, uh, data structure and coding, so these things, if you just combine, these are going to be, it's going to be the data engineer role. Okay, so data engineer, you are going to ask these topics mainly. If you're trying to combine the basic statistics, hypothesis testing, SQL, a little bit of data structure, it is going to be the role of data analyst. Okay, if you're just trying to this just skip the SQL and just try to keep all the things else, then it's going to be the role for the uh, ML algorithms. Okay, so it's not like you have to categorize these things. I'm just telling that you whatever the roles you want to get in, just you can get from the same skill set, the whatever you are going to prepare. Obviously, if you're just taking the as a whole, taking the everything as a whole, it's going to be the role for the data science. Okay, because in data science you are also asked statistics, SQL, coding, programming concept, puzzles, guesstimate, ML algorithms, data science concept, hypothesis testing, distribution, and statistics. That is why data science is a very broad uh, work, and you are going to get a lot of different types of questions based on these topics only. So obviously a subset of these topics will eventually allow you to get more into the some other roles also. That is why it's very useful to prepare all those topics at once. So let me just move to the individual topics from these all broad topics. So like basic probability, basic statistics, all these topics are mainly asked. And I you can keep these things as a checklist. So whenever you're preparing for the interview, you can keep these things with you to get an idea about you what the topics, exact topics that you need to prepare. And obviously whenever you try to deviate, just keep the checklist, just see the checklist, and it will just remind you what are topics that you need to stick on. And that is why it is important to read these topics well. So if I just try to discuss this topic, so from basic statistics, probability we all have read in 11 to 11 class 11 or 12. Basic theorem, base theorem, the mean, median, mode and its properties, random variable, skewness and kurtosis, expectation, correlation and covariance. So these things are important if we're talking about the basic statistics. Obviously, to read those things, obviously you can go to any YouTube channel, but yeah, this particular book, Introduction to Probability and Statistics for Engineers and Scientists by Sheldon Ambrose, this particular book is very good if you just want to study these topics in detail from any book. So this is a recommended book, so I have personally read this book, and that's why I want to recommend it. So like using this book only, you can cover each of these topics very well, obviously with the clear understanding. So apart from basic statistics, these are the popular distribution asked. So binomial theorem, Poisson distribution, sorry, binomial distribution, Poisson distribution, geometric, exponential, normal, uniform, and gamma and beta. Obviously, the same book you can just keep and read about these distributions well. Then comes the hypothesis testing. So in hypothesis testing, popular tests like t-test, f-test, chi-square test, ANOVA, the interpretation of p-value, a central limit theorem, and A/B testing. Same book. You can just use the same book to read all these things. So like one book, by using the one book, you can cover entire statistics portion, like a statistics plus distribution plus the hypothesis testing. You can cover each and everything just using the same single book. Obviously, anytime you can go to any YouTube channel and just read these topics individually from the YouTube also. So next thing is about the ML algorithm. So popular classical ML algorithms that are actually there is the linear regression or logistic. These algorithms like KNN, SVM, decision tree, LDA, QDA, random forest, bagging, boosting, PCA, naive-based classifier, ridge regression, lasso regression, elastic net, and K-means clustering. So these things will help you to understand regression, then the classification, then the clustering. So these things are actually asked a lot in the any ML algorithms. Sorry, ML, either ML engineer interview if you're sitting for, or if you're sitting for any data science interview, these things are mostly asked. So a popular way to read these topics is obviously go to any Coursera plus any YouTube channel or any blog or something like that. But what I personally suggest is to read this particular book. So I'm fond of reading books. That's why I recommend people reading books. So this is Introduction to Statistical Learning is a great book if you want to understand the working of these algorithms in detail. Introduction to Statistical Learning. It's a freely available on the Google. Just you can search the link in the Google. You can get the book easily. So you can read each and every chapters that I have discussed here in the particular book, and the single book will allow you to read all these things in detail. So after reading this particular book, you won't require any other book to understand any of these concepts, like maybe elastic net, K-means clustering, lasso regression. You won't require any of this particular thing. That is why it's important to read these things in detail. Obviously, you anytime you can go to any course or a course or YouTube, but if you just find with you can go and read these topics in from that particular thing. But what I personally felt is that over the time, a lot of online tests, online courses are not as per with the theoretical things. They just don't discuss a lot of theoretical stuff. They just try to make you a overall understanding of the things, and then just go to the code also, code right away. That is why it's important you can just use this book to clear every doubt that you have regarding any ML algorithms or such things like that. Okay, so it's time for a small taste for you if you are trying to get into the data science interviews, data science job. So just a small test for you. Maybe you can just answer these things. And the question is, which of the following is not example of bagging algorithm? So like there in the ML algorithm, there's something called bagging and boosting. Okay, bagging and boosting. So these are all the examples of in assemble method. Okay, so just I'm not going to discuss the theory here, but yeah, here out of these four options, one algorithm is that it is not the example of bagging algorithm. I just want if you are just know if you just can guess like which of the following is not example of bagging algorithm. So I will just watch the chat for you if anyone answers, and I may then discuss the right answer with you also. So there are four option strategies at a boost, random forest, and bag trees. So out of these following algorithms, which of following is not an example of bagging algorithms? So Naman has answered it's a add a boost. So yeah, this is the right answer, like Naman Singh. So add boost is the algorithm that is actually a boosting algorithm. This is not a bagging algorithm. So add boost, XG boost, and these are all the boosting algorithm. And extra trees, random forest, bag trees. These are all the examples of bagging algorithm. Okay, so thanks for the answering. And these type of questions will be there in the interview also. Like the interviewer will often try to confuse you between bagging and boosting algorithm. Maybe by changing some, taking the name of some different algorithms also, and ask you like how, what are the working of those algorithms, whether particular algorithm is bagging or the boosting algorithm. Something like that will be there in the interview also. So just want to discuss that particular thing. Okay, so thanks Naman for answering the these questions, and then we move to the next particular thing, like data science concept. So in the data science concept, the questions asked are bias based instead of. So these are the popular topics related to any data science algorithm, ML algorithm. So bias based instead of, precision and recall, ROC curve, how to handle missing data, how to handle outliers, cross validation, overfitting and underfitting, and the regularization. So these are the popular topics that is actually asked in the uh, this particular thing. Okay, so it's important for you to read these things well in the well. And this particular book will just discuss each and everything, like it has concept from regularization, overfitting, underfitting, bias instead of, precision, recall, everything you will get in the same book. So till now I've discussed two books, so that are two books that is can actually help you get statistics plus ML and data science clear. Okay, now I'm going to discuss our next questions with you. If I just aware about the bias instead of, just help me answer these questions. Like overfitting occurs if the model or algorithm shows what, like like overfitting and underfitting are related to the bias and variance. Bias variance trade off, this concept is actually related to the overfitting and underfitting. So just help me just answer these particular questions. If you know key overfitting occurs if the model algorithm shows which of the following property. Okay, so out of this particular thing, one of the option is correct. So just I'll watch the chat for you and see if someone answer the right. So Naman is saying option B. So option B is not the right answer, because low variance and low bias is not the case of overfitting. So that will be entirely new case. Any other, please, if you want, you can guess, or if you know, just try. Okay, if someone knows the answer, try to answer this particular thing. So Sravani is telling option D. So yeah, option D is also not the right answer. So we have already eliminated option B and D. Now there are two option A and C. So maybe you can guess, or maybe you can move ahead also. Yeah, Umang is right. High variance and low bias. Option C is right. High variance and low bias. So this is the right answer for the overfitting, because if the model had overfitted some particular data, it is going to have high variance because it had just copied the, what you can say, just remember the data itself, and that is why it's going to very high variance and low bias. So option C, the Umang answered, and the Sravani also answered. That is the right answer for this particular thing. Okay, then just move to the next concept. Obviously, you cannot skip the SQL concept. So, like SQL is the mostly, means it's a main for data engineer role, data engineer and a data analyst, and then uh, data scientist also. Okay, so in ML interview, I have not seen people asking about the SQL concept, but yeah, in data science concept, data science or ML engineer, uh, you are going to get asked about the SQL concept. So mainly for data engineer and data analyst, maybe sometime for other analyst role you may be asked. I don't know. So particular thing is that you have to read those particular thing, and the best way to read is the W3 school. Go to W3 school SQL course. If you search on Google, you will get that. Just what you need to do, obviously try to read each and everything, but just try to pay more attention on these topics, like joins in SQL, constraint in SQL, primary key and foreign key, queries in SQL, truncate, delete, drop. Like what is the difference between truncate, delete, and drop? Obviously, queries is the most important, because most of the time obviously I can say 99% of the time the questions will be asked from the queries also. So the interviewer is going to give you some table, maybe two or three table, and they're going to base frame a query that actually requires for you to use those three tables. And obviously that will require to use some join or constant, or sometime maybe using some aggregate function. So just try to pay more attention and just try to be very comfortable with making a query from two or three tables. That is how exactly we're going to get clear this SQL concept, because most of the time the things is going to get related from only either from two or three tables or more than three tables. So that is how we are going to get SQL concept related questions in the data science or data engineer or data analyst interview. Okay, so like for the data engineer, actually entire interview can be based on the SQL, entire interview. That is why it is important for you to just read these SQLs very well. If you, some companies going for data engineer, some companies going for data analyst related uh, role. Okay, then again, data structure concept. We actually discussed all these things in the beginning itself in the test part. So obviously, you can read all these topics, same topics, no any difference for the data science concept. That is why I told you data science concept are actually asked in the interview also. These are data also asked in the test also. So it's important to prepare those things well at once. And if I talk about a programming concept, so these things obviously for reading about any programming language, so list, tuple, dictionary, set. Obviously, I just restrain these things with the Python. Obviously, you can read same types of concept in the R also. So list, tuple, dictionary, set, loop, recursion, data frame, importing data, like how to import data in a Python or using pandas or NumPy. How do you visualize the data, or how do you use some libraries to do some ML implementation in for some data. So you can obviously read these things from the data camp. So data camp is a great site, a great platform where you can read all those things. So like just these things you will find it's a separate course for all these things. And for obviously for the data camp, I think if someone is heard about the GitHub student developer pack, so using the GitHub student developer pack, actually they can get 3 months free subscription of the data camp. So I just want, if you're in college, right, just try to avail this GitHub student developer pack and just get your 3 months data camp subscription, and just try to read those things well while if you're preparing for data science interview. So just try to search on the Google what is the GitHub student developer pack, and just know about what are the site that are actually offered free from the GitHub for your reference. Okay, so just let's move ahead. And a common questions for anyone who is who's try to get into the data science industry is that, is deep learning mandatory or not? So like if you're targeting any data analyst role, data analyst or data scientist in general, also like a data scientist, if from the college level, or maybe ML engineer from the college level. So these things actually people don't expect for you to know the deep learning. So a lot of time if the company is coming especially for deep learning engineer, then they are actually going to ask or expect deep learning related concept from you. But if you don't know these things well, that is totally fine. And especially at the college level, people don't expect you to know all those things, because if you just know the classical machine learning algorithm also, and just understand the statistics, know the coding, then also they understand that with the time we eventually can learn the deep learning thing. Obviously when I was in the college, I have a master's in applied statistics. We did not have a very good understanding of deep learning, but yeah, a good understanding of the statistics, ML optimization, mathematics, classical ML, data science concept are there. And then eventually I switched to the ML rules, because company know that if I just good in this particular thing, you can switch to means read any deep learning concept. So if you have time, if you can understand deep learning algorithm, just go for that. Try to at least learn artificial neural network and how that particular thing works. And if you don't have any time, if you don't want to get that, that is also fine. Just try to stick with the plan that I just discussed with you earlier. It is totally fine. So at this point of time, let me just discuss some of the popular questions in the technical interview, especially when what the company expect from a uh, candidate. So like in the beginning, you are going to any interview. If you're sitting for any technical interview also, or you are sitting for any HR interview also, in the beginning you are going to get asked questions about, tell me about yourself. Okay, so tell me about yourself is the questions that you can obviously expect from any interview in the beginning of any interview. So what I used to do in the technical round, you can just frame this answer on the basis of this 5 point. Okay, and try to keep those answer between 60 to 90 seconds, ideally 1 to 1.5 minute. Okay, so what you need to do, first point, you need to discuss both educational background, then your project and internship, then any pur. Pur means position of responsibility. Maybe someone of you are uh, maybe placement coordinator, internship coordinator, some cultural coordinator, something like that. You can discuss those things in the pur, and then you can discuss about your strength, and then you can conclude your tell me about yourself. So obviously wanted to know like how these things can be written. So let me just discuss a ideal answer with you. Obviously you can adjust this answer with you. So this is the answer that I used to have when I was in college. So you can see that in the first two line I've just discussed about my bachelor's and masters. Okay. Then in the next I have discussed about my internship. Okay. Then in the particular thing I've discussed about my project. So project, you don't need to discuss each and everything. Just try to discuss the titles and the concept on which the project was based. And here you can discuss your POR. So I did not had any POR, so I had not put it anything. But yeah, after this particular thing, you can discuss your POR, and then your strength. So strength means that obviously you have to point out some things from the data science concept that is actually strong with. So like maybe strong with data science, machine learning, and coding concept. So this is the strength you can talk about. And then you can talk about your personal strength, like maybe you are good at picking new technology fast and time management. So these are some skills that people have. Maybe some people are good in leadership skills, maybe some people are having good time management, or maybe some people can manage other people's very good. So these are the other skills that you can talk about, and then you can end the conclusion something like this. So this is how you need to frame your point. And obviously whenever I used to go to the interview, let's try to have the same format for any company. Tell me about yourself for the same format. So obviously you can just change this format according to whatever your skills or your education's in, and then you can just do the same thing. The next most important thing is that how to explain project and internship. Okay, so if you want to explain project and internship, this is the thing that I'm going to give you, and just try to do these things whether you are trying to get in data science industry, or maybe when if you are in the some other job also. Means it's not like for the college student, if it's for the everyone. Sorry, whether you are trying to switch the jobs or whether you are trying to get a job right after the college. So what you need to do, just read this term elevator pitch. It means that you have to pitch your project. So especially let's say if you are in the beginning of your uh, means you are explaining your project to someone, and then you have to convince that person, so key you have done this project. So once that particular person is convinced about what are the projects that you have done, then you can just start explaining the particular thing. So pitch means you have to pitch your project. So what do you mean by pitching the project? It means that prepare a very short description of the project which answers the following questions. So it's not like we're going to discuss whatever the 1 and 2 pages things that you've written. It's not going to be that. Just try to prepare a very short description, maybe 2 to 3 lines description about the project that actually answer the following term. The first term is that what is the problem that we're trying to solve. So any data science internship project, whatever you are doing, you've been trying to solve some problem. So try to discuss the problem in layman terms. Second, what did you do to solve the problem? Maybe you do some data analysis, maybe you applied some ML algorithm, some deep learning algorithm, something else. So whatever you have done, just try to read those things, tell those things. And whatever is speaking, just try to just keep all the things very simple and clear. Simple and clear means just don't try to complicate the things. So like I see that if 100 candidates are sitting for interview, only 90 only means more than 95% of a student don't follow this step. Means if someone asks about explaining the project, they'll just start explaining the project from very beginning. Oh, I started doing this, then that, and this, and just keep speaking for next 5 to 10 minutes, and they're going to get interviewer bored. And interviewer is also not it's not exactly clear like what have you done. So he have to know like whatever you're trying to explain, the interviewer must be convinced, yes, this is the project that you have done. Maybe you have solved text classification using some RNN, LSTM, any particular thing. You have to convince the interviewer that you have done this particular thing, and then just try to explain that particular thing. So after explaining the elevator pitch, 2 to 3 lines, you have to ask the interviewer if they want to get into some specific detail, or if you need to explain the everything in detail. So just don't try to explain everything in the beginning itself. Just try to do these things in the by explaining the elevator pitch. And this is how actually you will explain your project best. And I don't know like other way to explain any internship project. This is the best way. I just advise it to everyone, and obviously I suggest you to use these things also. Okay, so this is the same thing that I have just written. So you can see that here is some project point that I've taken from some resume, and I've written a what you can say, three line description of the same thing. The problem was to predict the cancer mortality rate for the US countries using different features, using regression analysis. I fitted. What did you do? I fitted a multiple regression model to solve just whatever you have done, and then at the end you can ask, should I explain these things in detail, or should I need to elaborate these things? So this is how you need to get done with the elevator pitch. Okay, so this is why it is important to just pitch your project first, and if the interviewer become interested, then start explaining. Okay, so obviously the simple thing is that just be clear and to the point while answering any technical interview related questions. Just don't deviate from main point. Obviously, when interviewer asks a question A, if the candidate don't know, they will just try to deviate the interviewer A from question B. Okay, that is good, but like most of the time you'll get caught. Key, just try to answer A first and indicate the interviewer that you also know the B thing. Okay, just don't try to deviate the interview from A to B. Just try to answer A, then indicate the interview that you also know the B thing. And also, second thing is just use examples. Whatever the examples you can use, just use examples to explain your point, and that is going to give you the things. Okay, two more things that I want to discuss about the puzzles and guesstimate. So puzzles means these puzzles are means the most common thing in the data science related interview. So just let me know, data science plus data analyst. Any finance related interview also. So a lot of banks and like companies like Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, all those companies ask for the puzzles. So puzzles actually can be prepared, like a lot of time puzzles can be prepared. So you can use this particular site, geeks for geeks, to prepare the puzzles. More than uh, 200 to I think more than 200 puzzles are there. You can just prepare those things, and you can see that a lot of the time companies are going to ask the puzzles from the things that actually has been given on the internet also. So it's important to note that key puzzles that you are going to read here, it's not be like it will not always be the case that you are going to get the same puzzles that you have studied. So it will be highly unlikely. Actually, there are a lot of ebooks also uh, that contains collection of 1500 most asked puzzles or 2000 most asked puzzles in the interview. So what you need to do, means try to develop a thinking like how you can solve this type of puzzle. So whenever you are trying to solve the puzzles, just try to develop the thinking about this particular thing, how you can solve any particular puzzles. And now the thing is that whenever you're trying to explain the puzzles, just don't try to get to the answer directly. So you have to explain your answer. The interviewer is not interested in your answer. He is interested in your explanation. He's not interested in answer rather than explanation. You have to explain your answer, explain it. So how you need to explain? So whenever you're told the problem, just try to think about the problem for some time. Okay, then you can ask for the clarification. Clarification means that maybe if you just not clear about the questions, if you need some more detail, just ask about those details. And the second thing is that use what you know. It means that means whatever the things that you have told to you plus whatever the things that you know, you have to utilize those things to solve the problem. And while solving the problem, just try to explain your reasoning, like how did you approach to this particular solution, and explain each and everything step by step. So if you just use these particular steps to explain your puzzles, then actually you are going to get, you are going to give a very good impression of you in the front of interviewer. That is what is required from you. So just try to explain everything very clearly, and use these jigs for jigs puzzles to like prepare some puzzles in advance. That will actually help you to understand those things. So I have just written us puzzles for you, small puzzles, small uh, things from my side. So let's say there are three ants. Okay, three ants are sitting on the three corners of the triangle. Okay, and let's say at any particular time point t, each ant pick a direction. So either ant can go this side or this side. This ant can go this side or this side, or this ant can go this side or this side. So at any particular point of time, the ant pick up a direction. They start moving along a direction. Okay, so maybe this ant started going this side, this ant started going this side, this ant started going this side. So whatever direction may they choose randomly, they'll start moving in a particular direction. Then what is the probability that the two ants are going to get collide? Okay, any two ends are going to get collide. So you have to find out this particular probability. So I will just watch out the chat for you, so maybe you can just take 1 or 2 minutes to maybe guess or to arrive at some answer for this particular problem. So this is a very famous puzzles that has been actually asked a lot of times during data science interview. So means this puzzle has been asked 2 times with from me only. So that is why I just try to point out these puzzles in this particular slide also. Just try to give some answer if you just know like what are the things you can explain. So Naman is saying that the answer is 1/3. So Shravani is telling 6/8 by 8. So I don't know how she is arriving. So Shravani is 6/8. So yeah, 6/8 is the right answer. That is the probability of collision. So just let me explain like how the probability of collision is 6/8. So like for any ant there are two chance. Means there are two way. Either ant can go this side. So Shravani has given the right answer. So either the ant can go this side or either ant can go this side. So it has two chance, two what you can say, two outcome. This ant has also have two outcome and this ant has also have two outcome. So total number of outcome is 8. Okay, and out of 8 outcomes, what is the probability that the ants are going to get collide? Okay, so I have asked what is the probability that the two ants collide. Okay, so two ants will collide only when okay, so just let me try to think about the question. Okay, so let's say two ant won't collide. Means the though means any two ants if they start traveling to the same direction they won't collide. What is the probability? So let's say if all ant start traveling in the same clockwise direction. So if this ant start going this side, so let me change the this particular thing. Okay, let's say this ant started going this side, this ant started going this side, and this ant started going this side. So in this case, they are not going to collide. Or either ant started going clockwise direction also. So in only two cases, they are not going to get collide. But out of these 8 possible choices, only there are two cases when they are not going to get collide, and all those 6 cases they are going to get collide anyhow. That is why the probability of collision is going to be 6/8, or you can also say that it is going to be 3/4. Okay, so this is how the things are going to be there. So puzzles like this can be there, so you have to exactly explain your answers also. And obviously explaining your answers is more important obviously rather than approaching to answer. So obviously you can read more puzzles on the Geeks for Geeks for practice. So the next thing is the guesstimate, and like the puzzles also guesstimate are most common in the finance related interview. Finance related interview means that if some banks are coming for the data science data analyst role, or some other financial institutions are coming, they are going to get ask you a lot of guesstimates. Okay, so that is why it is important to prepare those things. Even Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, these type of companies also ask a lot of guesstimate. So how the guesstimates you need to prepare? So obviously guesstimates is something, like you have to use some guesses to estimate a number. So you have to guess something, like maybe something, and you have to estimate some result. Okay, so I'll just show you the example. So let's say someone give you the example of estimate the number of masks disposed of daily in Mumbai. So when we were in college, COVID was going that time, so these were the popular questions in the guesstimate. Estimate the number of masks disposed of daily in Mumbai. So it is like you cannot give an exact answer. It's not like you will say okay 10 lakh or maybe 1 crore. So it's not like you can give any one answer. You can estimate a number. So how you are going to estimate a number? So let's say we make an assumptions about the population of Mumbai. So let's say maybe it's just assumptions, 50 lakh people lives in the Mumbai. Okay, so this is something guess that you have done. Now you have to start estimating the number of masks by using this particular thing. So if 50 lakh people live, let's say 20 lakhs are a working people. Okay, there are working people that they need to go to office, and let's say 30 lakhs are the people that actually out of those, let's say 10 lakhs are children and 20 lakhs are people who are staying at home. So you can just assume that the people who are going outside, they may require two masks. Okay, maybe after going to the office they change the mask, and just they keep the mask a whole day, and then after coming to the home they change the mask. So two masks for each people who are going to the office. And same you can just assume for the 10 lakh children who are going to a school also. Okay, then also out of 20 lakh people that are residing at home, you can just assume that they are eventually using going to use one mask. Okay, so number of masks is going to be here 20 lakhs mask. Here you are going to get 40 lakh, and you are going to get 20 lakhs. So total 40 plus there are 80 lakhs marks that are people are using daily in Mumbai. This is just an assumptions. Okay, so it may happen that out of 80 lakh masks, let's say 30 lakhs masks are cloth masks that people actually wash and can use. So you can just it's an assumption. It's not like it's going to be any concrete number. Then you can say that ki, okay, 50 lakhs masks are exactly disposed daily in Mumbai. So this is just a number that you can use to like a answer a guesstimate. So guesstimate is all about arriving at a number by estimating something. Estimating something. So you have to estimate by guess the some number and do those things. And obviously same procedure you need to follow. Just try to answer the questions by explaining each and everything strategically, and just don't try to rush to the answer. Just don't give the exact number. The interviewer is interested in your calculations and your whatever your strategy that you have made. So it's not about the numbers, it's about your strategy that you are making to solve this particular step. So eventually what you need to do to solve this particular problem, anytime if any particular problem is given, just try to branch out the problem in different parts, and just try to come to some numbers by for each part, and some of those numbers or maybe whatever the operations do you want to do to get to the final answer. So just try to do those things too while solving any guesstimate. So in my ebook I have just listed out a lot of guesstimate, more than 50 to 100 guesstimate I have given. Obviously you can take those guesstimate to practice out with your friend also, like how to practice guesstimate for data science interview. Okay, that is going to be super helpful for you. And then comes to the HR questions. So like HR questions, a lot of HR questions can be asked. So like tell me about yourself, what is strength and weakness, why should we hire you, what is your plan in 5 years, why XYZ company if you're just trying for any company. So these type of questions can be there. Just try to prepare those things well for the HR round also. And after clearing the test, you go to the technical round, and then after clearing technical round you go to the HR round. And HR asks these type of questions to just estimate a just something about you, like how do you means whether you will be going to be a long term employee or not. So these are the some things that HR actually asked. Okay, so you can prepare these things by yourself. So like in the if the HR asks about to tell me about yourself, at that particular person just don't try to include the technical details, because HR a lot of time don't understand technical details. So what you need to do, just frame your answer on the basis of education details, your strength, your hobbies, maybe sometime, and your conclusion. So this is how you're going to frame tell me about yourself for the HR round. So earlier what I discussed, the tell me about yourself, that was for the technical round, and this is for the HR round. So just frame your answer, and at the end when the interview ends, whether it's a data science interview, data analyst interview, the people are going to ask, means whatever the people who's taking your interview is going to ask whether you have some questions for them or not. So it's encourage means I encourage you to ask some questions to the interviewer about the role, like what is the exact role, how means what will your exact work related to, who will be you reporting to, and how the working culture in the company. Or maybe sometime you can also ask about the like the interviewer's journey. So let's say the maybe interviewer is some long term employee, 5 to 7 years, or so you can ask like how he has failed over the times being in the company over 5 to 7 years. So something like that you can ask about a role, company, to understand the role better. Okay, it's about you. It's about you to understand the role better to the company. It's not like the interviewer just giving the chance randomly. They're trying to give you a chance to ask your questions so that if you have any doubt, just things get cleared. Obviously, don't ask questions about off work activities, or maybe whether the interviewer goes for the holiday or something like that. Just don't ask those type of questions. uh, a lot of questions can be asked, like just don't ask about salary and benefits, because like in a campus interview, obviously salary is pre-decided. So what whenever you see the job description, in the campus interview, salary is actually going to give there. Obviously, interviewer is not responsible for your salary. The HR person is related, and obviously in the campus we don't have a lot of choice for the salary. Okay, so salary and benefits is not actually asked from the interviewer. So any complicated questions, like maybe just you are trying to ask any complicated questions, that is just like the interview is not going to get answer. Just don't try to ask those type of questions. So these questions, these type of questions you have to avoid. These type of questions you have to ask. Okay, these type of questions about the role, company, something like that you have to ask. Okay, so at the end, just I want to see that in the interview, communication is the key. So, whatever the knowledge that you have, just try to be more confident. By being the more confident, you are going to get the interview clear. It's not like you are going to get the interview clear just by, like knowing more and more knowledge, having more and more knowledge. So that thing won't help you a lot. The thing that will help you a lot is about having good communication. So just try to explain your things very clearly with simple words. Just try to interact with the interviewer. Just try to sound humble, very calm and very confident person. That is actually going to help you a lot in the clearing the interview. And like for the college student also, if you are not having any internship, then just don't worry that you are not going to get placed. So like internship is not the required thing to get placed. This is just a little, you can say that this is just important, but it's not required. If you don't have any internship, it's not a point to worry. Just try to read whatever the topics that I've discussed. Just try to be good in that. Do some self project also by from yourself or by taking a project under your faculty, and just make a good resume that is going to get you hired for the any company. So for that, some things that you can do. If you're not having internship, you can do some summer project right now. Do some external project under some other college faculty, or get internship through LinkedIn if you want, or do some self project or do some online courses. So these things you can eventually do that will actually increase your skill set, and obviously increase your chance of selection in the company. So these things you can always opt. Okay, so interview means internship is not the most important thing for the particular thing. And the final word of advice from my side is that if you are just trying to prepare for campus placement, it's not like you are going to get a place in the first company only. So if your friend is get shortlisted or get placed in the first company, that is good. If you're not getting shortlisted in the first company or second company or fifth company, that is not a point to worry about. Just you need to be consistent, because there are thousands of companies actually hiring for data science, ML, and AI roles. And obviously, if you're not going to get the job from the on campus, you are going to get the things from the off campus. Just like people a lot of time worry, they just don't leave the preparation at all. Just take some bad steps. Just don't do that. Like it's a very easy task. Just you need to prepare, give interview, and keep doing those things until you get a job. So it's not too much complicated. Just don't complicate the things. Obviously, if you just feel low, you can take help from your friends, your family members, some other person. But yeah, the thing is that just try to be on path. Just try to study, give the interview, and just repeat these things until you get a job. Revise the things along with the time, and you'll get the job. So just the final checklist I want to discuss with you. So whatever you need to do, just read the basic statistics, learn to code in R or Python, or learn machine learning, or learn to use this data set on any algorithm. So obviously use these algorithms on any data set, and do some ML project, and just keep revising all those things. Make a good resume, and then you are going to get uh, placed easily. Obviously not sometime easily, but yeah, a lot of time you are going to get placed. So I've seen a lot of people actually who did not get a good package from the campus. They actually started going from the out of campus, and they actually was placed at the very good package in the very good company. So that is all about this particular session. The fourth thing that I want to tell, just have a very good resume, prepare these things well, have good communication skill, and just try to be confident. Just don't take more stress. So at this point of time, if you have any questions for me, eventually I can take some questions from your side, and I will try to answer at my best to solve your doubt. So over to you, Himansi. This was all from my side.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your insights. Your teachings are undoubtedly beneficial to all of us. I want to thank our sponsor, Coding Minutes, for sponsoring our session. Also, a big thank you to all who joined our session. You can fill the feedback form and you can get your certificates. The link is provided in the description. Also, sir ki ebook का link भी description में है. So whoever is interested in that ebook can use that link and can have the link to the book. Thank you so much. This was all about it. Also, ये session recorded है. आप इसे बाद में भी देख सकते हैं. Thank you so much.
Okay.